This Quaker State 400 DFS Picks edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Make sure to enter the free roll football contest for up to $3,500 in prizes up for grabs. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/free roll to enter today.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you asked me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Welcome in to another episode of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Allow me while we slip into something more appropriate. Here we go. The NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. For those of you who are not watching on YouTube, you don't know what I did, don't care what I did, but thank you for listening anyways. But you should go check out YouTube. This will be my shameless plug for YouTube because you never know exactly what's going to happen on any given YouTube video, I suppose. And guess what? You'll never know what's going to happen on any given super speedway. This week we are on Atlanta, the super speedway of motor speedways. And we're ready for some action. DFS episode today. We've got Underdog to give you, and Cody bringing back the wheel, my friend.
Yes, I was so excited. We did not talk about this ahead of time. I logged into the link here to record the show, and boom, the wheel is pulled up behind the scenes, and I was like, oh, we're doing the wheel, aren't we? And Rod said, we're doing the wheel. Let's fucking go. I'm excited. I love some super speedway wheel spinning because really it's a spin of the wheel for the most part. So I love it. I'm excited to do that today. And Friday, we've made it, Rod. Another weekend of racing. The Huskers are going to kick Colorado's ass this weekend. I'm excited.
Yeah, and of course, football is back. I just finished up my last fantasy football draft of the season so far. And man, I'm anxious for all of this to get going, but I'm more anxious to watch Atlanta unfold because, like you said, we just don't know. It's a wheel spin. It's a crap shoot. I'm sure your daughter's going to be excited this weekend to be able to pull stuff out of the hat to be able to set your DFS lineups to. So today we're just going to spin for 3 drivers each, defend their chances and how you would rate them and put them in your DFS lineups. And then, of course, we'll actually start with Underdog this time around because we're going to have some fun defending these projections, and then we'll defend our choices for DFS as well. So kind of quiet on the news front over the last couple of days, right? We talked about the big news already.
Hopefully, Rod, hopefully.
That is true.
Don't jinx it. We may or may not be recording this slightly at a time. So.
Well, as we're tending to do nowadays with our DFS episodes on Friday, Fridays get busy for everybody. So,
and then we can get it out to you early. You can get it in before the weekend, before practice and qualifying, if that affects it. And yeah, we're busy people on Fridays with all kinds of activities. So works out for us. Hopefully it works out for you as well. And so hopefully no big news is broken since Thursday's show, but if so, we'll talk about it on the recap.
Friday nights during the school year are just booked, man. I'm telling you right now, Friday Night Lights is a real thing, even for band members. So gotta love all of that. All right, we will start talking about this race and all of our DFS picks. But let's tell you first, the Sports Gambling Podcast is back. They're picking every NFL game against the spread like they've done since 2011. That's a long time. Plus, make sure to enter the free roll football contest up to $3,500 in cash up for grabs. You can sign up for that right now at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/free roll. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/free roll. Cody, we talked about it just a second ago. We are at the Atlanta Motor Speedway in Hampton, Georgia for this Quaker State 400. Available at Walmart. 260 laps around this 1.540 mile paved track for 400.400 miles. I mean, as far as laps led are concerned, we're probably not going to see a lot of lap leaders as far as what we saw last week with 260 some odd by Kyle Larson. But yeah, this will be place differential and actually finishing the race, honestly.
Yeah, it's I mean, it really does run like a super speedway race. I will say, I was trying to look here quick because it does feel like in this race, like at this track in particular, you can get, well, maybe not. I mean, when we were here in the spring, 58 was the most laps led, 46 last fall. The spring prior to that, you did have 140 by Joey Logano, who ends up winning the race. So that was a much less chaotic one, though, which helps, obviously. So, yeah, I think that as far as, picking what you're going to be playing, don't try and guess the laps led. Don't, you got to play this like a super speedway race. We just saw it 2 weeks ago at Daytona. Like, it's fresh in our minds. Don't, I would lean on pretty heavily at what we saw at Daytona. Yeah, there's, this is the start of the playoffs, so maybe people are taking it easier and stuff, but are they, right? I mean, it's still Kyle Busch's chance to win. It's still Corey LaJoie's shot at a future ride. It still means a lot to all these guys, and then the guys farther down in the playoffs, if they can win, you don't have to worry about the rest of this round, which has a road course and a short track in it. Like, it's I don't think that if anything, maybe the intensity's ramped up even more because go get it done. So yeah, I think that it's more going to be about finishing position, most importantly. And the place differential obviously going to be huge as well.
Yeah, and we've seen this race too shape up a lot of 2x2. There's not a lot of 3 wide in this one. There's not a lot of jockeying until, of course, the end of the stages and stuff like that. So we've seen these guys be content to kind of ride around a little bit more in that 2x2 configuration. It doesn't necessarily get spread out a lot in single file, but yeah, I mean, look, this is one where we're going to see a lot of jockeying, but we're also going to see a lot of guys just sort of taking their time to get where they got to go.
Atlanta is beginning to wear again. It's in the deep south, right? A lot of sun and stuff, and being the type of track that it is and how they paved and stuff, it's going to get more worn as we go. So you're going to still have the drafting super speedway elements, but also maybe some tire wear will start to become more of a thing farther down the road, which make it even more exciting and probably more chaotic, which is what we love.
Indeed, it is what we love too. Speaking of what we love to see the entries in this one. Pretty straightforward, Cody, but with a couple of caveats and some fun guys to talk about that we talked about in the betting episode. So
Cody Ware in the 15 car, he just finished 4th, 5th place at Daytona. So he was a must need in your lineup. Now, is that every single super speedway? No, of course not. He can get caught up in the wrecks just like anybody else, but he paid off. JJ Yaley, he's back in that 44 car, Rod. I mentioned at Daytona, don't touch this car. It's going to be so slow. He's going to go multiple laps down. We still finished like 20th, which probably wasn't, a peak day for him, but still, he's going to start dead last. There's almost zero chance he outqualifies anyone. And so he has no downside other than just not getting you any points. And he can get a 20th place finish, which is a decent day for him. And then BJ McLeod back in the 78 car as well. And our guy, Rod, SVG 2025 NASCAR Rookie of the Year, Shane Van Gisbergen. He is back in the 16 car for Colleague.
Gotta love it. Yeah, like I said, we'll probably be bringing up a few of those names as we go along through the course of this episode. Maybe, I don't know, if the wheel decides it wants us to talk about them, then we'll talk about them. But other than that, we will stick to what we know. which is Underdog Fantasy. We're going to tell you all about all the fun perks you can get later if you sign up with our promo code RACESGPN. But Cody, I feel like it's time to start laying out some of our favorite Underdog Fantasy picks for this race. All you got to do, pick better than or worse than the projected finishing position for the drivers. You can pick up to 8 and then watch that multiplier stack up. And at the end of the night, cash out and be excited that you were on the right side of it. Now, as we say before, we say in every super speedway, I mean, we're going to take a lot of the probably worse ends in this one, but you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, worse than is in general the way to go, right? Of course, some people still have to finish better than, so you want to try and hit the right ones, but worse than is generally how I go. Rod, boy, Underdog, just look, if you're not on Underdog already, first of all, football season started last night with the Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens, so hopefully you were already in on some plays on that, but now we've got racing, football we can mix together, just a beautiful thing, and they're serving up these fantasy projections that how do you project Kyle Larson to finish at 10.5, Rod? Tell me how you do, because you know what his finishes in Atlanta are? You know how many times in 5 super speedway races at Atlanta since the reconfiguration, Kyle Larson has finished better than 10.5, Rod? 0. That's right. If you're not watching on YouTube, Rod's holding up a big old goose egg. That's correct. Not only has he not finished better than 10.5, he did finish 13th place in this race last season. So that was as close as he ever got. Other than that, 4 for 4, 30th place or worse. I know some of you hate it. Kyle Larson's not good at super speedways, Rod. 1 for 45 in his career time finishes. I say it every single time. I said it 2 weeks ago. I said it on the betting episode earlier. And they just continue to give us stuff like this. If you ever get the opportunity to bet his worse than, or his under on a super speedway, you get the opportunity to play these fantasy projections of worse than this. It hits way more times than it doesn't. He's going to look good throughout the race. You're going to wonder. You're going to worry. And then he's going to get caught up in the wreck because it happens every single time. Fade Kyle Larson. It is the commandment on super speedways. Kyle Larson, worse than 10.5. Rod, I know that super speedways are unpredictable. I know that anything can happen. This is the play that's going in every single Underdog lineup I put in this weekend.
And I know we read it, we see it. Everybody, tells us that we're idiots for thinking it and that it's something that we should never bring up. But every time it happens, but this is going to be the time. No, it's not. I mean, and if it is, fine. We'll get burned by it. That's okay.
Great. Yeah, good. If he come at me if you want. If he finishes good, great for him. Love it. I would love to see him win a super speedway race. And because I do believe he is the greatest driver in the world. I think he can get it done. He's done in the Xfinity Series before. He's just 1 for 45, Rod. You can't argue with some numbers. And this is one of those numbers that if I'm striking this guy out 1 for 45 times and he hits a home run off of me, so be it.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to just throw that curveball every single time until he actually hits it. And then when he hits it, you throw it again because guess what?
Because he ain't going to do it twice in a row.
That's what I'm saying. Statistically speaking, it's not going to happen again. So, I mean, this is what the law of average and statistics are for you. All right. Love it. Yep. Kyle Larson, worse than 10.5. I'm going to start with a better than. I know that the trend is usually to go worse than, but this is a guy where, again, if he finishes worse than, it's probably because he got caught up in something, and you can't really account for. I mean, you can account for it, which is what you do in the worst ends. But if he doesn't get caught up in it, he's going to finish better than, and that's Kyle Busch, better than 7.5. This is kind of a higher number. You don't feel comfortable a lot taking this in a super speedway-esque type race, but I will tell you right now that Kyle Larson, over the course of the last few Atlanta races, especially the last 2, has finished better than, right? He finished better than this in the fall of 2023 when he finished in 5th place after starting 22nd. He finished better than in that exciting end to that race earlier this season. He finished 3rd, but he finished 3rd by, there's no physical way that I can show you exactly how close he was to finishing 1st in that race. So the fact that he ended up finishing 3rd is still a good feather in his cap. Just go back a couple of weeks to Daytona. He finished 2nd in that race. He finished 2nd at Darlington. He finished 4th at Michigan. Kyle Busch has been turning it on. Earlier this season, like I said, in Atlanta, he finished 3rd. He hasn't been okay or good in the last couple of them. He started 4th at Talladega, ended up finishing 27th in that, 12th at Daytona in the spring. So, again, this is one of those instances where, he can finish worse than 7th, but this track in particular, it's not like Daytona. It's not like Talladega. The only way that it resembles that at all is the package and the fact that it's drafting, right? There's still big differences between the expansiveness of a Daytona and a Talladega and the 1.5 miles that is Atlanta, even though it still races like a super speedway. It's not a super speedway. It's just there, but it's not. So for Kyle Busch, the fact that he's done it the last 2 times on this track means he can keep himself out of trouble for the most part. The fact that he did it in Daytona a couple of weeks ago means that he's still fresh in his mind how to keep himself out of trouble. So I think Kyle Busch will keep himself out of trouble. He's out of the playoffs, but he still has that streak he's got to go after, right? He's still hungry to win a race to keep that 20-year streak going, because God knows that if that streak gets broken, that's all that they're going to talk about for the rest of the season. So, you definitely want to keep that going. So Kyle Busch better than 7.5.
Yeah, I mean, the only argument against this is he has to finish in the top 7, which on a super speedway, Cody Ware can finish in the top 7, where he can't do that at Bristol in a couple of weeks, right? And so that's the only thing that's scary, but you got to call your shots on some guys. If you think he's going to have a good day, which we both believe in him and think he can have a great day, and he's hot right now, and he's going to win at Bristol here in a couple of weeks. So, there's all of that, but 7.5 is a low number. That's all. Only thing I'm going to say, but I like calling your shot on him.
Yeah, I mean, you got it. Somebody's got to finish better than, right? I mean, that's what you just said. Somebody's got to finish better than. So why not it be Kyle Busch?
We already know it's not going to be Kyle Larson. So
it will not be Kyle Larson. So we're definitely not taking that as well. All right, we'll come back with more of our underdog picks for this race, but let's first formally tell you about Underdog Fantasy, because Underdog Fantasy Pick'em gives you a chance to win 1,000 times your entry. NFL's back. There's a ton of Pick'em specials to get you started. We're giving you all of our favorite picks for this. Well, maybe not all of them, because we're going to come back later on part of the week. We're going to give you some of our Xfinity underdog plays through our social medias, so keep open for that. Sign up right now. In the meantime, though, with our promo code RACESGPN, you're going to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN. All right, Cody, moving on. Who is next on your list?
Sometimes I feel bad about these things, Rod, but
I would.
Martin Truex Jr., 14.5 is his projected finishing position on Underdog. And I don't know. So looking at it, we've had these 5, super speedway style of races here. And I will say he has finished better than the 14.5 in 3 of the 5. So he is, batting above the average there. But Rod, when you look at Martin Truex Jr.'s season and when you look at how things are going, he's not doing good. Over the last 15 races, 2 times has he finished better than 14.5. 15 races. How fucking good was his beginning of his season for him to still have pointed in when he's not finished well? If you go back over the last 8 races in this season, 1 finished better than 24th place. We saw it last week at the Southern 500. 2 laps into the race, and he is done. I hate to see it for a guy that has made us so much money over the years on the show. Love him. He's a legend of the sport. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, all this and that, but things are not going good for him right now. And again, it's all a numbers game. If Kyle Larson continues to not get it done on super speedways, well, Martin Truex Jr. continues to not get it done in general. And now I will say the one counterpoint to this, I need to find the stat because I brought it up earlier this week too, and I don't remember where it was from or what exactly it is, but he's got something like 20 in a row or like 18 to 20 something where he's actually finished super speedway races. But half of them have been with damage, multiple laps down. We saw him at Daytona a couple weeks ago, right? He was out on the track at the end of the race, but he was just running by himself. Every 5 laps, you'd see the pack go whizzing by the 19 car on the bottom. And it's just raising his beer and, getting his fishing pole ready down there. But until we see, maybe he gets hot, maybe it's the Tony Stewart run, maybe he gets it done finally and wins the championship. He could do all of that still. I'm not counting him out. But until I see it again, I got to continue to fade him because this isn't just a regular track where he's got to go finish in the top 14. Like, he could probably still do well, can he though? Because he's only done it once in the last 8 races. But it just, man, yeah, with all the things that could go wrong and all the things that have been going wrong for him right now, hard to be on a guy like that.
Well, and when you talk about streaks like we talk about too, and even for like Kyle Busch, like this winless streak right now, I'm not saying he's going to win this race, but he's at least he's been finishing decent over the last few races. And when you talk about a guy like Kyle Larson not finishing within the top 20 in most of these, and then Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Truex Jr., Martin Larson, I don't know. When you talk about these guys having these long streaks of just not success, right? Of inconsistency, then it's hard to say that they're going to do better because they haven't so far. And I know there's a lot of bleeding heart folks out there that love them some Kyle Larson and some Martin Truex Jr. And don't get us wrong, we do too, but we have to look at the numbers in this situation. And the way we interpret that is it's probably not going to happen this time either. So, again, could it happen? Yeah, of course. It's sports. Anything in this freaking world can happen, especially
he's also not like traditionally a very good super speedway racer either. If you look, he's never won a super speedway race in his long storied career, and he's a lot like Larson, where he'll run up there up front and mix it up and get some stage wins, and you'll see him up there, and then he always gets caught up in the stuff. Like, he's not to the level of fading him as hardcore as Larson on super speedways, but he's already like the next guy that I usually look at. And then you add on top just how fucking cold he is right now. You got to put those two together. And if they keep giving us underdog projections on him every week for these last 10 races of his full-time career, until he starts beating me, I'm going to continue to take him.
Yeah. And then even then, like we said, we'll throw that curveball again, because guess what? He probably won't hit it the next time around either. So, all right. Just full disclosure, I am back on my Duolingo lessons because I need to learn how to speak my mother tongue better and to roll the R's for all of the folks out there that love the rolling R's. So I guess it's no surprise that I'm all on Daniel Suarez this week, because guess what? Look, for Daniel Suarez and Atlanta, right? This is the reason why I'm on him, because for some reason, Atlanta's just been a really good track for him, even since the repave. This is where we're at. And we're just giving me Daniel Suarez as a top 10 car, right? So Daniel Suarez, his projected finishing position is 10.5. Give me better than 10.5 for Daniel Suarez on this track. Why? If you look at the last 5 races, 4 of those last 5 have been top 10 finishes. In fact, 3 of those have been top 5 finishes. In fact, 2 of those have been top 3 finishes. In fact, 1 of those was a win. That win came earlier this year into that thrilling 3-way finish for the Atlanta win. So look, say what you will about the rest of Daniel Suarez this season, because every number that I read off to you for the rest of it is going to say don't. And this is the one instance where you say, well, Rod, you just said that all of the numbers point to, you got to follow the numbers. I am following the numbers. I'm following the numbers from Atlanta, not following numbers from the rest of the season. Because if you look at the rest of the season, 34th at Daytona earlier in the year to start the year off, 26th at Talladega, came back around to Daytona again for a 40th place finish because of a fire that engulfed his entire freaking car. I don't know what you could have done there. I mean, he only ran 37 laps before his car decided it wanted to have s'mores and to become a campfire. But look, at Atlanta, it all changes. I don't know what it is about Atlanta. I don't know what it is about that particular track in general that makes him feel more comfortable than on one of those bigger super speedways. But in 4 out of 5 times he's gotten it done, and he's been better than 10.5. There's no, I mean, I can't figure out why Atlanta is different for him, but it is. And you see the numbers, a stark contrast to all the other numbers that he's had this season, especially on super speedways. So for whatever reason, and for whatever his comfortability on this track is, he seems to just be able to finish inside of the top 10 each and every time out. His one time that he didn't was a DVP problem. I think he wrecked out right in 2023 in the spring, ended up in 29th place. But other than that, I mean, you could set this number at 8.5, and I would still probably take the better than on this one. So Daniel Suarez, better than 10.5.
Boy, being bullish on Daniel Suarez, always a scary thing, Rod. But look, certain guys are just better at certain tracks. He's good at this one specifically. And I like that you're leaning into that. It's a super speedway. Obviously, that's the only argument against going above it, but he's been better than it most of these races. So yeah, hard to really argue that, Rod.
And you shouldn't, because it's Daniel Suarez. He's mi amigo, right? I would get a gold star on Duolingo if I called him mi amigo correctly. All right, let's
right,
wrap
Rod,
up those underdog picks.
Wrapping it up. I know I've been preaching all about it's all about the numbers. It's all about the numbers. It's all about the numbers. I don't care about the numbers on this one. This one is narrative driven, Rod. Alex Bowman is set at 16.5. Give me the better than for Alex Bowman. Look, here's the deal, Rod. All these rumors are swirling, all this stuff now. Suddenly, maybe Alex Bowman's out if he doesn't make it past the first round of the playoffs. And he's commenting about how annoying it is in his contract run 2026 and all of this stuff going on. Alex Bowman, he's one of those guys that he's not going to lash out in the media. And he's, he was asked about it and just said, oh, annoying it was. And he's got a contract and his bosses haven't told him any different. And he's going to keep showing up to work, whatever. Like, he's not going to lash out. He's not going to make a bunch of hate posts. He's going to make you shut up by performing in the car, which is what he does. Not to the level of a Kyle Larson or anything like that. We understand that, right? But he just goes out and gets solid finishes. 16.5. This isn't even it's not an 8.5, a 10.5, 12.5. It's all the way down at 16.5. All he has to do, be one of the 16 cars that survives this, finish in the top 16 for Alex Bowman. He's done it two of the 5 races here, so not the greatest, of numbers, but 26th, 27th, and a couple of those still running at the end at least. So not completely torn up and in the damage stuff, but he's been pretty consistent on the full season too. 15 of the 26 races we've had so far this season finished better than 16.5. So if you need some numbers to back it up, those are the ones. But yeah, I think that Alex Bowman is going to have something to prove through the first round in this playoffs. I think that's going to start at Atlanta, and he's going to do extra prep and be ready to try and shut people up that want him out of that 48 car.
Which, it's hard to believe, because you think of a couple of seasons ago when he was the darling. I mean, he wasn't the darling, but it was.
Did he win? Did he win 3 races a couple seasons ago?
Yeah, he was.
Did he really do that? I got to look at that, because I feel like I remember that, and it seems weird to think.
Kind of does, doesn't it? Especially nowadays. While you look that up, I'm going to give you one. I changed it. The numbers actually did sway me in the other direction, because I was going to make a blind argument about Ty Gibbs worse than 16.5, because I thought there's got to be one worse than, right? And all the other guys on there, I thought, you could probably finish better than. So I was like, I'm going to take Ty Gibbs worse than, because I haven't talked about Ty Gibbs this weekend. Oh, by the way, I can't make that case. I have to make the case for better than. I'm going to go all better thans in this instance, but 16.5 is kind of a low number, especially when 2 of the 3 times he's been on this track, he's been well above 16.5. His very first time out in 2023 in the spring, he finished in 9th place. Started 7th in the fall of 2023, ended up 34th in that one. He only ran 150 laps because he got wrecked out. There's the instance, right? It can't happen that he finishes worse than 16.5, but came back earlier this spring, 25th position that he started in. He finished in 10th, finished 17th at Daytona earlier this year. That's a half a position outside of that one. Talladega, 22nd. He started 15th, so there's that for you. But Daytona earlier this season started 26th, finished 5th. Maybe, just maybe. I know that I said the sophomore slump is on, and it is. It's still on, because he finished 20th at Darlington. Everybody was pointing to the 3rd place at Michigan, 5th place at Daytona, saying he's back, baby. Let's pump the brakes on that one. But I still think better than 16.5 is within the cards for him. His average finishing position this season, 14.7 across all tracks, which means there's consistency in finishing better than 16.5 in these races. So I still don't know that I like it, but I just got talked into it by the numbers at better than 16.5. I wouldn't hate you if you decided to go with my initial gut reaction and put him worse than 16.5. But if I'm looking at pure numbers alone for Ty Gibbs, it's going to have to be better than 16.5.
Yeah, he's been good on the drafting tracks in a general sense. Been pretty good here as well. And you got to love some Ty Gibbs, as I do, Rod. And again, 16.5, that's where you're getting to the area of, I feel a lot more comfortable taking the better than, because you do have 16 spots to finish in instead of 7 or even 9. Like it does open it up some more. Of course, the whole field can finish in those spots, but yeah, I feel a lot more comfortable with these bigger numbered projections with going on the better than side.
Yeah, I feel like the Ty Gibbs odds weren't good enough to take him, which is why we didn't really talk about him much. I don't think the odds were favorable for us to take a top 10 or, head to head. So
yeah, and again, that's another good reason to have underdog, to have the DFS side of things. Like maybe you couldn't find a way to bet on him, but if you want to play him, he's a great play in DFS and underdog. And yeah, another great reason to be doing both.
Indeed. All right, get out your pen and paper. We're going to go over our underdog plays for this race. Cody started you off. Kyle Larson, the first commandment, worse than 10.5. I said Kyle Busch would be better than 7.5. Cody said Martin Truex Jr. would be worse than 14.5. I said Daniel Suarez would be better than 10.5. Cody said Alex Bowman would be better than 16.5. I said Ty Gibbs will also be better than 16.5. All right, that is your underdog plays for this. We'll come back. We're going to spin the wheel and give you our favorite DFS plays for this track in Atlanta. But first,
by the way, real quickly, 2021, Alex Bowman had 4 wins. Rob.
Oof.
4 wins. He won at Richmond. He won at Dover. He won at Pocono and at Martinsville. Woof, what a season that was.
Seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
Does.
Probably for him too, for sure. All right. DFS coming up after the break, but first let me tell you about Rhythm. Have you ever wanted to create your own sports betting model for football? You're probably out there thinking, yeah, I have. Do you even know what a sports betting model is? Yeah, you do. SGPN's proud partner Rhythm is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps promote or provide bettors of all levels. It's Friday, folks. We're getting there. That helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. You can build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me, and Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. The Rhythm College Football had me on Colorado versus North Dakota State under 59.5, which was a sweet cash. Go claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Buying tickets is the worst. Absolute worst, but it doesn't have to be that bad. You don't have to feel like you're getting ripped off by every app out there that's charging you all these fees and then maybe not even providing real tickets to you. Doesn't really matter. Game Time takes all of that guesswork out. You're going to not only get the Game Time guarantee where you're going to get the tickets, they're authentic, they're going to be on time, but you're not going to pay all those fees. You get lower fees, you get better prices, especially on last minute ticket deals, because if you're like me, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make an event until sometimes the day of. That sucks too, because then you get gouged. But Game Time does not gouge you. They're made for your phone too. This app is made for your phone. You can see everything you need to see with the ease of on your screen, and you even get a picture of the seat that you're going to be sitting in. So take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. You can download the Game Time app now, create an account, use code SGPN. They're going to give you $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code SGPN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Cody, we have reached that time. Ooh, Cody getting rid of himself already.
Jeez.
We have reached that time, Cody, where it is time to spin that wheel. All of the cars are represented on this wheel. If you aren't watching on YouTube, that's fine. We'll still shout out the number to you as well. But we have the wheel with all of the entries in here, and we're going to spin it.
What are the rules here, Rod? We have to make a case for, against, either.
I mean, if you don't think it's a good DFS play, then we say no.
I just didn't want to have to make a case for Kyle Larson if it lands on 5.
Oh, for the love of God, no. But here's the thing, too. This provides valuable insight for people to stay away from other folks, too, right? We don't normally tell you to stay away from somebody. We're normally telling you who to actually put in your lineup. So this could be a valuable tool to say, don't put this person in your DFS lineup this week.
All right, let's roll, Rod.
All right, let's roll. I will be spinning this wheel now.
Oh, the wheel's spinning. Where is it going to land? Who's the lucky number? 20. Oh, Harrison Burton.
Nope.
Oh, no, just kidding.
20.
I can't see. It's too small. Christopher Bell is the winning number, Rod. He's only 8,300 this week, which, let's be honest, like salary doesn't really mean anything at super speedways. I will generally leave $5,000-$6,000. The lineup that I made the most money with at Daytona, Rod, I left $10,500 on the table. Like, it was not quite a stack the back lineup, but it was fairly close. So let's see. Initial thoughts on Christopher Bell. He can be a bit of a wild card, right? I think that's kind of the first thing that comes to mind, and that's just in a general sense on any given weekend. Looking at his 5 races here, he's finished 4 of them, so that's a good sign. 23rd twice, got a 19th and a 3rd place finish in March of 23 here. Decent run there. He's only led 22 laps in total over the 5 races. Generally not a guy I'm clamoring to go shove into my lineup on a super speedway, honestly. But not a guy that I'm going to say definitely stay away from or don't play in Christopher Bell.
I would think that I don't want him. Like, I don't want any part of him this weekend. I don't know what it is about it, but I just feel like it's not. This is not the best place to play him.
He's going to be one of those guys that'll end up in some of the randomly drawn lineups, and he's got that upside of 3rd place finish in 2023 in the spring race here, so you could definitely make the case. All right, Rod spun the wheel again, and it has landed on the number 1 car, Ross Chastain. I'll let you start with this one.
Yeah.
He's $8,000, by the way.
$8,000. I don't mind Ross Chastain because we don't necessarily I'm kind of high on his partner, the number 99 car. So for me, Ross Chastain's probably going to be right around there. And we know that he's not in the playoffs anymore, so we know that he doesn't have anything to really worry about at all. So
yeah, but that's the amount of like pressure that gets taken off the guys that aren't in the playoffs, like, he doesn't have to worry about racing for points or anything either. Like, he could just go out and win races now, which, in some cases, while of course he's disappointed he didn't make the playoffs, it still could pan out fairly well for him,
Yep, indeed. And Ross
been good here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Ross Chastain, 34.1 fantasy points per race so far. Average finishing position of 14.4. He did finish 12th at Daytona earlier in the year. He ended up finishing 13th at Talladega, 7th in Atlanta, 21st at Daytona. So Ross Chastain has been decent. I mean, again, for what you're paying for him on these tracks, he's been pretty decent. So, and as far as
here at Atlanta specifically, like 2nd place in the first next gen or super speed next generation of track race, I guess you could say. Finished 2nd in March of 22, led 42 laps. 2nd in July of 22, led 32 laps. Also, we know how good his teammate is here. But then his other 3 finishes 13th, 35th in this race last year, got wrecked out early, but then 7th place here in the spring. So he's been pretty solid here, Ross Chastain, and he's won at Talladega. So definitely a guy worth looking at.
Yeah, $8,000 is not a very expensive addition to your lineup. So I'm okay with taking Ross Chastain in one of your DFS lineups. Obviously, you're going to have plenty of them. So Ross Chastain should be one in one of them. All right, spin the next wheel here. As it spins, we will wait for it to show up.
Number two, lucky number 2, Mr. Austin Cindric, playoff driver. Playoff driver, Austin Cindric. Rod, we know how good he can be at super speedways. Let's see. Mr. Cindric is checking in the price department, $7,400. Again, pricing doesn't really matter too much this week anyways. He's been really fucking good at Atlanta in its time. 32nd place in the first race here. That was in his rookie season, or first full-time season at least. He ran previously, but that was in the 33 car. So 32nd in that race. But after that, he's led laps in every single, the other 4 races here at this race. With a 3rd place finish in 22, he led 7 laps. 11th place finish in spring of 23, where he led 5 laps. 12th place finish in the spring of 23, or in the fall of 23 rather, where he led 10 laps. And then here in the spring, 32 laps, finished in 4th place. I believe I gave him out as a top finishing forward on the betting episode earlier this week because of how good he has been here at Atlanta. And obviously he's won the Daytona 500 and been really solid at super speedway tracks all around. I was trying to scramble and find him in my notes here because I feel like he's been really solid. He has 3 top 15s and 7 Daytona starts, 2 top 10s in the last 4 at Talladega. So not only really good at Atlanta, but he's been very solid on all 3 super speedway tracks.
Yeah, and for Austin Cindric, I think the only thing, I mean, again, I kind of poo-pooed him on the betting episode, and I'm still going to poo-poo him here because I don't necessarily trust him. But if you want somebody that is going to differentiate yourself from somebody else in the DFS world, this is definitely a place to do it because a lot of people are going to think like me and go, yeah, Austin Cindric, I'm going to stay away from him. And then you are going to reap the benefits of a solid Austin Cindric finish. All right, let's go for our third driver in this. Oh, we're up in the higher range of this. It is what?
34?
34.
Oh, Rod has made both the case for and against Michael McDowell on the betting episode. Make sure you go back and listen to that. Yeah, he checks in at 7,700. You seem to be torn on him, Rod. What thoughts do you have?
Well, I'm torn on him because, he can go and put in a 36th place at Daytona. He started on the outside pole and finished 36th. Didn't look good there. You know that he's won at least on a super speedway before, but then he'll come back, start on the pole and finish 8th in Atlanta. But then he comes over and he gives a good start in the next Talladega race. He starts on the pole, finishes 31st. He crashes out of that one. Then comes back at Daytona. He starts on the pole, and then he finishes 30th at Daytona. Like, this is not somebody that I'm particularly wanting to put my fate in the hands of because, sure, he's probably going to end up starting well, but we haven't seen him finish well.
Actually bad. I mean,
horrible.
Like, you don't really want to have guys, the guy who starts on the pole in any super speedway race, the things that they have to do in order to pan out for you is a lot. Like, there's so much downside because they can obviously get caught up in a wreck, or if they lose any spots, they're losing points for you. And it's not like, it's not like we're racing at Darlington like last week where the sitter could just go out and lead 300 laps. The super speedways are a lot different. So the number one reason I'm probably not going to play Michael McDowell is because he's likely going to start really well. Now, could he start well and finish well? Sure. In Atlanta in the spring, he did it. I mean, he started first, he led 27 laps, finished 8th. That's a pretty strong DFS day, especially on a super speedway. So it's not out of the question. Like, he's not, and I don't take anybody off the board. If Kyle Larson gets drawn out of the hat for the random lineups, I put Kyle Larson in the lineups because, well, if people are like me, they're not going to play him in general. And even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, Rod.
Yeah, and again, I mean, he can do it. He can have a good DFS day like he did in the fall. Started 20th, finished 4th, but he can also do stuff like start 12th, finish 15th, not lead any laps. I mean, it's an okay DFS day, but it's not what you want. And then start 12th, finish 21st. It's just not a guy I want to put my hands in.
Maybe he does end up starting not well, and then that makes him a much more attractive play. Obviously, he's just been so good at qualifying on super speedways this year. I mean, he just had the pole 2 weeks ago at Daytona, and he's on the front row at the 500. I think he won the pole. Well, he did win the pole here in the spring as well. So, like, he's been qualifying so good that it does make him a tougher play in general, but definitely not off the board.
The board doesn't like to. The board
is that a sign? Should we be putting some money on Ross Chastain this weekend?
Apparently,
yeah. For the record, the board, the wheel landed on Mr. Chastain again. So take that for what it's worth.
All right, here we go. Number 78.
BJ.
This is one that Cody really likes because Cody loves some BJ McLeod. I'll let you talk about BJ.
I love BJ, Rod. I love some BJ McLeod. I meant to say, look, it's BJ McLeod. I mean, really, what more do you need? We're coming off of him having a strong run at Daytona. I made a case for him top 10 based on his number in the betting episode earlier this week. You look at his Atlanta results in this new car or in this new track. They're mixed, right? He does have a 19th, a 20th, a 24th in 3 of the races, but then he was 36th in 2 of them where he got caught up in wrecks. Again, it's one of those deals where it can go either way, no doubt about it. So If you look back, he's only 5,100, so obviously he's pretty cheap. 45.3 points for you. You know, and starting 38th and only finishing 19th at, I guess that he'd finished 19th at Daytona wasn't better than that. So that's a pretty strong day for you. You're going to take that for a cheap guy. And again, with all the chaos and carnage that's going to go around it, he was 33.2 here in the spring race. And then, 18.4 at Talladega as well, and some of these other races that he started. So BJ McLeod, definitely a guy I'm always looking to play on the super speedways. Look, he knows he only shows up in that 78 car on super speedways because he knows this is his chance to get things done, and he needs the chaos, right? He's going to sit back. He's not going to have one of the better cars in the day. Going to let the chaos unfold. When it does unfold, he's going to be there and snag those long shot top 10s for you and whatnot, and score some DFS points. So I love BJ McLeod as a play at 5,100.
You definitely love that he popped up on this board. So, all right, let's do one more, shall we? One more.
That'll fill out a perfect lineup because this is going to be my first random lineup submission of the week, Rod.
Perfect.
I'm using this board, so definitely dropping this lineup in a contest. We have $13,500 left, so whoever it lands on, it will fit. Oh, give me 42. Give me 42.
Oh, you got Ryan Preece, 41.
Ryan Preece, but hey, Ryan Preece, Rod, not a bad super speedway driver. You can't really say he's not bad in many places, but super speedway wise is one of those places. I was trying to find his.
You got to scroll all the way down.
Boy. Well, I was looking for his Atlanta stats. He's apparently doesn't have a very good average finish here.
I'll tell you what, Ryan Preece, $6,000. He's averaging 26.6 fantasy points per race so far this season. Got you 49 last week at Darlington, 33 minus 33 at Daytona a couple of weeks ago. So
he's a mid driver at Atlanta. Like he's only run it 3 times because 2022 was when he was out and kind of bouncing around in the Truck and Xfinity Series. But 28th in this first start here, 24th, 16th. So has improved each time, gotten a little bit better. Starts 20th, finishes 16th in the spring. That's
good for 32 points, by the way.
Yeah. So it's an okay day. I mean, he's a very unsexy name. Not a lot of people are going to play him just because there's not much attractive about playing Ryan Preece, but he has the ability to get good finishes. He's never won on a super speedway, but he's always been one of those drivers that can seem to get some decent finishes. So I was going to try and pull up his Daytona, 39th, 23rd, 31st, but then like 4th place, 6th place, 5th place, 8th place. So he's got the ability to survive these to the end. He definitely seems like it's all or nothing kind of with him. Like he's either going to get you a top 10 or not finish well. But although I say that, and his 3 finishes are in the middle in Atlanta so far. So I'm not, running to the window to get him in my DFS lineup. But again, much like everyone, he's a guy that could get it done for you.
Indeed. All right, Cody. Well, why don't you read off the list of folks of who we have since you are actually entering this in a lineup, and we'll recap the wheel of super speedway for everybody.
Yes, recapping the wheel, Rod. Christopher Bell, $8,300. Ross Chastain, remember he came up twice. Take that for what it's worth. Maybe the luck of the wheel gods are with him this weekend. $8,000 for Ross Chastain. Daytona 500 winner Austin Cindric, $7,400. Another Daytona 500 winner in Michael McDowell, $7,700. BJ McLeod, BJ, $5,100. And Ryan Preece, $6,000. Leaves $7,500 on the table, Rod. That is not an issue. Do not be scared to leave money on the table. If you don't leave money on the table, you're probably doing it wrong at super speedways. I'm telling you, whatever my cash lineup is for super speedways, I usually end up somewhere between $6,000 and $9,000 left on the table, because it's all about place differential, finishing position. So that's really I've said it before, but I do have my daughter draw numbers out of a hat. I write down every race car number like we did with this wheel, put them in the hat. She draws lineups. Loves doing it, and I've hit some decent winners before with it. It can be that random. Of course, go back, listen to the betting episode. You'll see the guy we like and are leaning more towards. You can build lineups that way as well, because there's obviously guys who are better at it in a general sense. But it is kind of up to fate, and a lot of luck really goes into super speedway races. As we know, you just have to avoid the shit, and everybody gets caught up in it at different times.
Yes, sir. So yeah, just have some fun with this one. That's obvious, and that's actually a solid lineup. The wheel picked pretty nicely. It's not a bad.
Yeah, you got a couple of former Daytona winners in there. You've got cheaper guys like BJ McLeod. You've got the unsuspecting Ryan Preece. Like, maybe that lineup will return and win some money for us, Rob.
Just don't enter it in anyone that Cody's entered in, because then you're already splitting money with him anyways.
Hey, I'll split money with you guys. If you're listening to this show, I would gladly split the money with you.
This is true. I do the same. So, all right. Well then, Cody, I think that was good. Good for a Friday. I love the wheel. The wheel always puts a little fresh life into.
Let's bring the wheel back for Talladega in a few weeks, because we get one more opportunity this year, and I like it.
Yeah, because we kind of shied away from the wheel the last couple of.
Really, honestly, you could play the wheel every week, and
this is true.
Might not be a bad idea, because then it forces you to pick sides on guys. But anyways, we'll workshop that.
We'll think that through later on. All right.
Let us know if you like the wheel.
Let us know if you like the wheel, and then we'll either keep going with it or sprinkle it in every once in a while and bust it out on special occasions.
All right, Rod.
Anyway, on Friday, yes.
Send everybody off to their Friday. Make sure you go bet the Nebraska Cornhuskers -7.5, taking down the tiny Buffaloes of Colorado. They don't even know that they're supposed to be called Bison, Rod. Can't even figure out their own mascot, whatever. Anyways, go Huskers. Follow me on the X at Husker_Zeeb. Wonder where that name came from. You can find all my stuff there. Lots of stuff. Ton of NFL stuff. I got a betting article out for NASCAR as well. It's got some additional stuff. PLL playoffs are rolling on. F1's back next week, I think, again. So I'll have more stuff for that. Just the content train never stops. Follow me over there for all that. Follow the show as well at NASCAR Gambling. And good luck this weekend in Atlanta. And we'll see you next week.
Yes, sir. We'll see you next week for the recap and to hash it all out. So, yeah, like Cody said, just have a great weekend. Enjoy the racings. And, we'll see you then. Follow me on Twitter in the meantime at RJ Villagomez. Link in the about everything I've got going on all over the world. And there's a lot. So just keep tabs on it there. And my underdog picks for Xfinity will be out as well if they're not already. So keep an eye out for those. All right. Have fun, everybody. We'll see you next week. And until then, let's go racing and let it ride.